Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Jeff Green, president of Green Team Realty. Thank you for joining us for the first housing market update of 2020, January 2020. Let's jump right in and check out the stats. Going to do a bit of a review from 2019 to see how that year ended up for us here in the housing market. So, a lot of interesting information to talk about this year, but let's start with where the predictions are in terms of some real influencers who are out there. CFRA Research Global Director says we have a strong foundation for a housing market driven by employment growth, higher household income, and high consumer confidence levels. So, the other factor here, as far as they're concerned, are the millennial households beginning to acquire their first homes. It's not one of the stats given here in this presentation, but it is a fact that there are more millennial buyers than any other generation right now. So they are definitely taking hold for sure. A lot of us in the industry have known that for some time, but it's really happening. A mixed bag, says Realtor.com senior economist George Retu. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but anyway, supply of new homes begins to offset inventory. So we're still going to be talking about inventory issues. Interest rates remain reasonable as home prices flatten. We're not seeing a flattening of home prices in our area, but I think it's reasonable to assume that perhaps the growth of price appreciation may continue to slow here in 2020. And Freddie Mac, this is a good quote from them. We expect mortgage rates to remain low over the next 2 years. All right, so that's a good thing. Moving on. Here's kind of a mixture of different things to look at. 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And again, predictions for 2020. Change in home price, the number of housing starts, the total home sales, and change in sales. All these different analytics. These organizations are making these calls basically, and what you're seeing is that rates are still very low. I mean, those are awesome, historically low rates. Change in home prices. Pretty much everybody's stating that home prices are going to increase. Realtor.com is the most pessimistic with just a slight increase. Housing starts. To remain at about the $1.3 million start level, not dollars, but the number of starts. That's a new construction analytic. And this is the total home sales. I mean, if we were to eclipse 6 million, that's a big number, for any year. If you look back at the history of home sale in the United States of America, anytime you're north of that 6 number, that's a very strong market. So all in all, a lot of these organizations are predicting a very strong 2020 housing market. Again, months of supply of unsold inventory is decreasing. So this issue of inventory that we've been dealing with for some time now continues, and it looks that it's going to continue into the foreseeable future, at least here in 2020. This I found to be very interesting, and very, I guess I should say, encouraging, right? Because what led the last horrific downturn back in 2007, 2008, and then kept us at such a low level through basically 2016 was delinquency. Right now, we are basically at 20-year lows as far as loans that are defaulting. So this is a really great analytic, because it means that maybe some people are having a hard time keeping up with their mortgage payments, but they're doing it because they see the value in the asset, right? A lot of it has to do with confidence. I think, what we saw last time with all these subprime mortgages, a lot of people didn't have much skin in the game in terms of their mortgage. And as soon as the market turned down and they saw that their asset was decreasing, they just lost interest in keeping up with those payments. So they just bailed, and it just created a ripple effect. So this is great stuff here, knowing that we're at 20-year lows. Now, this is interesting as well, because one of the precursors, what some people that I've spoken to over the last several years have always said, watch home auto loans as a result of, as it relates to the housing market, because sometimes it can be a precursor for the housing market, and you can see that, basically auto debt has doubled in a 10-year span here. So lots of people are buying cars, lots of people are leveraging those cars with debt, and it's just growing at a rapid rate. So it's worth keeping an eye on. Okay, so let's take a look at some more local stats here. We're going to start with Orange County, and we're going to kind of go through because we have a quarterly look, which gives a little bit more of a flat curve so that you can see how things line up year over year. And you can see here the units sold here in Orange County is not the top line, so you can see that, 17 really was the peak through pretty much, all of the quarters, through Q1 through 4. And 2019 for Q3 was kind of even with 2017, but for the most part was lower in each other quarter. So it's just worth taking a look at. And here's average sale price. Now you can see that prices are continuing to increase. You can see where we left off between Q3 and Q4. It increased over the previous 4 years. Average list to sell price. This is the last asking price versus where it's sold. So it's, softening a little bit here. The hotter the market, the better the seller's market, the lower, the cooler, the more of a buyer's market it becomes. Days on market even is rising a little bit here. You can see that there's been a clear trend in the last 4 years where it dropped, but now here we are again, 2019, it came up and it was at the same level as the year before. So when you take a look at it, from Orange County's perspective, things are cooling. There's no question about it. Here's another look at the same information, but it's on a month-to-month basis. So you can see each of the data points on here is a monthly data point. But again, you can see the green line, which represents 2019, is pretty much lower than all the other months throughout the year. So you can see kind of where things started to drop off. I mean, 2017 was here. 2018, the red line, it started out about even, and right off the bat in the first quarter, it went down below the previous year, 17, but then it bounced back up. So really, when you take a look at where did things start to, fall off a little bit, you could argue that it really started to slow in terms of the number of units sold back at the end of 2017, which was 2 years ago. So one could argue that we've almost been in a cooling off phase for 2 years, but we haven't seen price decrease inside that same space. In fact, we've seen price increase over that same period. So, as far as I've been watching over the last 15 years, price always lags units sold. 100% of the time, that is the case. But we're talking about over a 2-year lag, which is pretty significant. So, a lot of that I think has to do with low inventory. Again, I'm just going to cruise through these because these are just monthly data points versus quarterly. Let's head down into Sussex County, New Jersey. Same look here. You can see it's even more of a significant variance for 2019, which is this dark band here, significantly lower than that of the previous 4 years. Average sell price, again, you can see prices are clearly headed upwards versus the previous 4 years, despite the fact that the units sold is down. Average sold to list price ratio, again, you can see it's cooling off here a little bit. The higher, the hotter the market, the more of a seller's market, the lower, the cooler, i.e. buyer's market it is. So just cruising through these again, days on market, still pretty strong. If you recall in the Orange County days on market, we saw that the 18 and 19 line were almost the same, not the case in Sussex. It seems to be things are still moving at a better clip in Sussex, but you can see the variance is narrowing here. Again, just the monthly data points, taking a look at, to me, this is the most important chart of all of them, which is how many units are selling. And again, you could make the same argument that basically things really started to come down in 2017. You see it ended, 18 ended much lower. I mean, I guess you could say you could almost go back to the second quarter of 2017 down in Sussex County. Okay, so let's move on and let's get to this last slide that we have here, which is if you're a buyer, should you consider buying a home in 2020? And what should you really be thinking about? And this is true. It comes down to individual circumstances, and watching what your debt to income ratio is. To get a qualified mortgage, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau recommends a total debt to income ratio below 43%. That's a good target. That means that, you're not going to spend more than 43% of your income on debt service, okay, to pay your mortgage. So that means you should have enough money left to pay off student loans if you have it, pay off, pay for groceries, your car, whatever it might be, right? All the other things that you need to live your life. If you keep your debt to income ratio at or below that 43%, you should be able to do it. So that's just good advice there. That's been sound for many, many years. Should you sell your home? Well, regardless of what this says, I say yes. If you already have a place to go to, or you have that worked out, if you're a baby boomer as an example, and maybe you're waiting to see if the market's going to tick a little bit higher, I wouldn't play that game. There's plenty of stats that are showing us that this market's cooling a little bit. We're in an election year, so you never know what's going to happen there. I would say, yeah, definitely sell your property if ultimately it's in the cards for you and you have a place to go to, because the market's about as good as it's going to get for the foreseeable future. So some housekeeping items. The next housing market update, Tuesday, February 18th at 2 p.m. You can always stay informed and look at more stats and charts and graphs and all sorts of stuff. greenteamrealty.com/HMU. And then a special thanks to our friends at Really, the real estate referral community. You can join for free at reallyhq.com. Okay, so let's get to the panel. Let me introduce everybody. I see from left to right, so we're going to say hi to Carol Buchanan. You can just go ahead and wave your hand there, Carol, so everybody can see you.
Hi.
Wayne Patterson, he kind of looks like Santa Claus with that big white beard. We welcome Wayne to Green Team and to the Housing Market Update panel. We're happy to have you here, Wayne. And of course, last but not least, Karen Gonen from Green Team New Jersey Realty. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. So let's get some reaction from you guys. I mean, Carol, let's touch base with you first. We've been on this housing market update now probably 4 or 5, 6 months in a row, you and I and Karen and some others. What are you seeing out there? How are things starting for you in 2020?
Very, very active. I can't remember a January that has been this active.
Mm,
I have listings coming on. I'm working with buyers who are very eager to find something that they can purchase. Again, there's inventory is low. I mean, of course, it is still winter, but inventory is low. So if a home comes on the market that is a nice home, is priced well, it's going to sell very, very quickly.
yeah. So Carol, this time last year on the housing market update, you made a prediction that 2019 was going to be a strong year, no looking back, so on and so forth. Do you get the same sentiment for 2020?
Absolutely. Positively, no doubt about it. 2020 is going to be a very, very strong year in real estate.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yep.
Carol's been more right than anybody else I know, including all the economists that I listen to. So I listen to Carol. Maybe you should too. So Wayne, you've had your ear to the ground on the real estate industry for a long time. We just went through a lot of information there. What takeaways do you have?
Uh, Immediately, what came to mind was if a buyer is interested in buying a house and the inventory, because the inventory is so low, they should have all their ducks in a row. They should make sure that they're pre-approved. They should make sure that they have all the documents that are required to purchase a house, because if they go out searching before having all this information, when they find the house that they like, there's a good chance they're going to be competing with others to purchase. And he who makes the offer first wins. And
Yeah.
if you're a little slow, you could blow an opportunity for a home for you and your family. So that was one thing that I wanted to share because the inventory is low. Um, Sellers out there that are deciding whether to put their house on the market or not, it's a no-brainer. Put it out there. It's going to sell,
Hmm.
and it's going to
Hmm.
sell quickly because there's an abundance of buyers.
I think, my experience over the years with listing homes that, you talk to a lot of sellers, and inevitably there's always an internal debate going on. Well, we don't really have to sell right now. We could wait another year. We have our home in Florida or in North Carolina or whatever it is. Should we make that move now, or should we maybe wait one more year because maybe the market's going to come up another 5 or 6%, and 5 or 6% on a $500,000 house, that's an extra 20, 30 grand. We could use that for our retirement. So what do you say about that, Wayne? I mean, if somebody's got that kind of perspective, what do you think about that?
You know, that homeowner that's thinking of selling, they're thinking of selling for a reason. And they're thinking of selling because they want to unload this New York home and move to Florida. They want to unload these New York taxes and move to Florida. They
Hmm.
want to unload the maintenance and everything that's associated with the home. So it's not even just the value. You have to consider all the associated expenses that are associated with keeping that house on for another year.
Sure.
So you keep the house on for another year and you save that percentage you talked about. Well, you're saving it, yes, but you spent it keeping it on the market, keeping it, keeping the house for the year. So you have to kind of play the numbers, and that's key, and that's individual. But if you're thinking about selling and you want to wait until the spring because you hear that the spring's the best time, or I want to wait until August because everybody will be shopping in the summer to get their kids in by August, and there's always a reason to wait. And right now with this market, with the abundance of buyers, there's no reason to wait. You price your house fairly and it's in good condition, it's going to sell very quickly.
Hmm. Hmm. If you price it right and it's in good condition, that's exactly right. That is,
Yes.
that can't be understated. A house that is well located, in good condition, and is priced right will sell very fast in this market. There's no question. All right, Karen, let's hear from you. So you've heard a bunch of us have things to say. Where do you think 2020 is headed? Are you, I guess, not in line with what we're thinking, that it is going to be another big year, or do you have any other perspectives?
I actually think it's going to be a better year than 2019 for a very simple reason. It's now cheaper because of the interest rates. It's cheaper to buy a house than it is to rent, and it has been for a while, but it hasn't been brought to everyone's attention. Especially here in Sussex, you can rent for 1900 and your mortgage will be 1300 for the same house, the same exact property. And I think a lot more people are more educated than they were in the past. As far as sellers not wanting to sell, I agree with that. And I always let them know to watch our marketing update, our housing market update, so that they can see what the truth is, because we bring statistics from different sources. It's not just what we think. And so I have a lot of sellers that are asking me, should I wait for spring? And I say, listen, let me tell you, I'm out with buyers every single day in the snow, in the freezing weather. And when someone's out in 19 degrees, they're serious about buying a house.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
have a lot of sellers that I've told them in this year, we're not expecting to appreciate as far as the houses in the same percentage as the year prior. However, we don't know what's going to happen the next year. So if you have availability to do so and you have the want to move to warmer climates rather than the 19 degrees, now's the time.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said about the fact that maybe you get ahead of the competition by listing now, right? Because
Exactly.
there are so many buyers out there, because so many sellers just get into this mode of, no, we're going to wait until spring because that's how you're supposed to do it. And I look back in I think it was 2015 or 2016, I was working with buyers, and they had to buy a home at a certain point in time, and they just did not want to wait any longer, and they bought something, like they identified the property in like January, and they closed in March or something like that. But I remember they paid a lot of money for that house, whereas if they had just waited 60 days, they would have had a lot more inventory to choose from, and they probably would have gotten the negotiations to a much better state where they did buy their house. And it was simply that there wasn't a lot of competition out there, and the seller knew it, and they were able to negotiate a good deal for themselves, the seller, that is, you know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think that there's an opportunity about getting ahead, right, of the
For
competition.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially in Sussex, we don't have that many good houses. I know in Warwick, just like Wayne and Carol mentioned, if there is a good house and it's properly priced, chances are here in Sussex, we're going to have competition over it. I was just showing a house 2 weeks ago. We had a highest and best. The offer that was accepted, thank God, was mine. But we had 7 offers on the table. I literally had to fight for my client, which I do all the time, but I wasn't expecting to have a highest and best in the middle of winter. But that goes to show you that the season is hot. So if you have a good house, list it now.
Yeah, and just, you know, to take you kind of everybody here to a more global perspective, you know, I'm looking at the Dow right now. It's down 180 points, but it's lingering just below 30,000, which is like
Wow.
unbelievable, and it just keeps going and going. And there's some big reasons why that is. You know, it looks like the U.S.-China trade deal phase 1 is a done deal. It's behind us, and it looks like it's favorable to the U.S. So I think that's a huge deal. That was something that was hanging over our economy all year in 2019. The other thing that's not so, you know, broadly spoken about is the replacement of NAFTA with a new trade deal between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. And that looks like it got through our Congress. Each of those countries needed to get it approved by their own governing bodies, and then they were going to finalize the trade deal. But that was another big overarching factor that was making a lot of, you know, business leaders wary about what was going to happen. So, you know, all things considered, there's some big positive things happening that really should make the U.S. economy roar going forward. I think the one X factor for 2020 is the election. You know, who knows what's going to happen with the election? I mean, we're in the middle of an impeachment process and an election. Not sure that that's ever happened before, so that'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Okay, well, does anybody have anything else? This has been a good discussion here. I don't think so. All right, so I motion to close the meeting. Thank you for everybody who joined us today. Thank you to our panel. Real quick, Carol Buchanan, how does one get a hold of you if they want to list or sell a property with you?
They can call me or text me 845-705-9162, or they can email me carolbuchanan97@gmail.com.
All right, very good. Wayne, how does one get a hold of you if they want to list or sell real property with you?
Okay, well, I try to keep it real simple. My email address is wayne@waynepatterson.com. So,
Okay.
you know my name, just put a .com and then use my first name before the @ and wayne@waynepatterson.com. Or you could call me at 845-313-5623.
All right, very good. Karen Gonen?
They can either text, call, use WhatsApp, Tango. I got it all. The phone number is 551-262-4062.
All right, very
And
good.
I'm attached to my phone.
All right. I don't know if I should say that that's good or not, but we'll leave off on that note that Karen Gonen is physically attached to her phone at all times. All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.